Good evening, good morning. Hello, dear alumni, and welcome to our live conversation with CEIBS Professor Jeongwen Chiang and the Swiss chocolate manufacturer Läderach. My name is Robert Straw. I'm the CEO of CEIBS Zurich campus. I'm delighted to moderate today's session with Professor Chiang, David Läderach, the head of digital and e-commerce, and Danny Key, general manager of Läderach China. In the next hour, we'll delve into the nitty-gritty and some of the details about how a Swiss family-owned chocolate manufacturer who's famous for its fresh chocolate and its authentic brand, made the leap to China. Why did they decide this was right for them? Why this timing? Where did they start? What obstacles did they already face in their way? What challenges lie ahead of them and what opportunities lie ahead of them? I'm very pleased to have Professor Jeongwen Chiang with us to share his insights and experiences on making it in China. If there's anyone at our school who's great about helping external firms make it, especially on the online business, it's you. So thank you. I'm very glad you're able to spend your evening with us. Thank you. So it's a small and intimate group of us. So I invite you to join the conversation. This is not meant to be a webinar where we're talking at you. It should be with you. So to come with your questions and offer your thoughts, your comments. It's a learning journey together. It's not like we have all the answers here. For the virtual etiquette, I ask you that you actually would turn on your video and join the conversation so that we can see you and hear you, and leave your mic off, leave your audio on mute unless you are speaking, just so there's no background noise, because we have many countries here on the call. If you would like to say something, just raise your hand and we'll bring you in. Yeah, and turn on your camera, and welcome to ask any question. There are no dumb questions, only dumb answers, right? No, I'm kidding. We will be recording this video, this webinar or this session, and making it publicly available on the CEIBS website and on YouTube. If you're uncomfortable with this and don't want to have your name and things like that on those sites, you have the option either to leave or to keep your camera switched off. That's entirely up to you. I'd like to now introduce our speakers. Professor Dr. Jeongwen Chiang, he's a professor of Emeritus of Marketing at CEIBS. He's a rock star at the school. His research interests include competitive analysis, consumer choice theory, measurement of consumer satisfaction, competitive pricing, new product design, market forecasting, and formulation and implementation of localization of marketing strategies. He's been a consultant for many, many firms. If I could spend an hour listing the firms for whom he's been consultant to, a couple would be Zurich, Merck, HSBC in Hong Kong. He has a rich experience in multinational industrial marketing and firsthand experience with new product development and launches, as we're talking about today, in China. David Läderach, welcome. David Läderach is the head of digital and e-commerce at Läderach headquarters, responsible for the digital transformation of the company. Since the handover of the firm to the third generation in 2018, David sits on the board of Läderach. Danny Key, did I pronounce it correctly, Danny?
It's the Chi.
Sorry. He joined Läderach about a year ago. He's the general manager of Läderach China. He's responsible for setting up all of this new operations in China from the ground zero. Before joining Läderach, he was the lead procurement manager for US-based digital customization platform. So he knows what he's talking about when it comes to the e-business, but we all are here to learn. So thank you all for joining in. It should be a dialogue. I've put together a list of questions coming through. And that's how my role as moderator. I'm going to ask questions. Some of them I'm going to direct to individually, with specifically to either David, to Jeongwen, or to Danny. Some I might just throw out there and let anyone answer, including the audience. So again, feel free to join in. So David, I'm going to start with you. As a member of the Läderach family and having you spent your whole life in this company, basically. I visited you about this time last year in the factory, and it was very interesting. I can tell everyone on the line, as we were walking through the factory, David seemed to know every single person that worked there, and they know him. You know, he grew up in the factory, literally on the factory floor with his parents and his grandparents running this firm. And so people say, hi, David. Good morning, David. Good afternoon, David. How are you, David? He's talking and engaging. It took probably 3 times longer for us to do the tour because everyone wants to talk to David. So I'm sure that many of the people who are on the call are familiar with Läderach, but those who aren't, can you tell us a little bit about the company? Who is Läderach, and what's so special about Läderach chocolate vis-a-vis the competition?
Thank you, Robert, for the introduction, and also a warm welcome from my side. It's really a pleasure for us to be part of this CEIBS webinar. It's an honor to have you, Professor Chiang, with us on the call, and I'm happy to discuss a bit more about our firm. So yes, Robert, you said indeed part of the 3rd generation, which always makes me biased vis-a-vis certain aspects. One, for example, which is the best chocolate in the world. So I'm happy we have a lot of people that can maybe judge it a bit more objectively, and it's good to dive into that discussion also at a later stage. So yes, to start with, just to give you a brief overview of what Läderach is. It, as you said, it was founded by my grandfather in 1962 and has since then always been 100% within the family, and that's also the way we want to keep it. And it also drives sort of our overall strategy in the way that we really think long term. We're not just out for the fast growth, but really for sustainable growth, for things we believe in, which is quite a reason why we shaped our strategy the way we did. So he started out, my grandfather, just in the B2B field, so doing semi-finished products. He actually wanted to go into retail at an earlier stage, but he didn't have the money at that time, so he just started in the B2B field. And it was only in 2004 actually that we could acquire a retail chain. There was my dad in charge by that time, and since then we really grew up our consumer brand, which is the reason that as a consumer brand we're actually relatively young, even though we have a company history of 60 years. But we're still learning a lot. What are consumer trends? What are the important things to look out for in retailing? And we're continuously also improving and extending the assortment list. So as of now, we've done this retail transformation. We still have B2B. We offer our product range also to various kind of business clients, being at a specialized retailer or a hotel or a business client. That's possible, but the focus overall is or not the focus, but a larger chunk of the overall sales really comes from retail. We are super excited to next week open our 100th store of Läderach in New York at 5th Avenue. We've waited for that for quite a while. And we also operate a couple of franchise stores, mainly in the Middle East area and then South Korea and Singapore. So China was really new to us. And I think myself or Danny can explain a bit how we approach this task. But just to give you an overview of what we are around 1,000 employees from up to 50 countries, so quite a diverse company, and we're really proud of that. And we also believe this is what makes us unique in some way. Maybe just to answer your second question, when it comes to the USP of Läderach, we really want to position ourselves as, of course, quality, chocolate of highest quality. This really starts from the sourcing the ingredients from the areas where we believe the products are really of utmost quality. But then also a big USP, or our biggest, is certainly the issue of freshness. So our chocolate, especially our fresh chocolate, stays in the store for no longer than a month. And this is quite unique compared to most of the competitors in a supermarket. A chocolate bar can be up to 1 year old. So this is really something we believe that customers can taste the difference. But I'll be honest, it's also a huge challenge regarding supply chain and also regarding the customer expectations, because it's a bit a Western approach, as I believe, and what I've learned so far. And we can gladly discuss this in more detail, that in China, usually the consumers would also want to have a longer shelf life, independent of whether it's regarded as fresh or not so fresh. But this is certainly one of our USP, together with our craftsmanship and the Swiss production that we produce really 100% in Swiss, which, let's say, for example, take Lindt. This is a differentiator which you're not able to do anymore.
So I mean, I find it an interesting case study also from an academic standpoint, that you've had two major transformations in the firm, actually. You know, this, as you mentioned, 2004, from going from B to B to B to C, and now having that be, you know, there's a case all by itself to make that at that period. And then 16 years later, you've made it. You said, you know, 100 stores now in New York last year and this year, and Dubai and things like that. That's great. And now you're doing something entirely radical, from going away from your boutique approach into China to an entirely online approach, which is something quite new, quite challenging, in an area that, if I understand correctly, and you know, your current market share, or your sales percentage of sales attributable to the online business globally right now is actually quite small. So this is a fairly new business because of your boutique approach. It's not saying you're not doing a good job on the e-commerce stuff, but the approach is come into our store and have the experience of the chocolate shop. So it's quite amazing. Danny, I'd like to come to you then on this and ask you, you know, you're responsible for Läderach in China for the last year in the Wild Wild East. It's a little bit different than the conservative Swiss place to run and start a business. The speed, the scope, the scale is absolutely different than here. What's the goal of the China operation?
So regarding the China team, we really have different goals in different stages. So in the initial stage, before the launch of our online store, our primary focus was really all about how to bring our chocolate to China without losing its quality and freshness. As David has mentioned, our core strength is the quality of our chocolate. So being able to let the customer taste our chocolate in the exact same way as they do in Switzerland is really the foundation for everything else. And so we're happy to have achieved that. And the other goal in the initial stage is that we wanted to enable ourselves to reasonably price our chocolate on the China market without too much increase compared to Switzerland, so that our chocolate can be more accessible to the general public. And we're happy to have achieved that as well. Now, with the launch of the online store, and we have moved into the next stage, where our goal is to ensure the best customer service experience, and to bring the entire Läderach assortment to China, and to build and consistently improve the brand awareness in China. And the ultimate goal of the China team is to make Läderach the most desired chocolate brand in China, as we have been in Switzerland.
Wow, so great aspirations. Professor Jeongwen Chiang, you've had a lot of experience in this. I'd like to hear just your first initial impressions. And then I'd like to specifically ask you to tell us a little bit about Tmall and about how, most people don't totally understand about how to actually enter the business in China. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that for those who aren't familiar with the platform and how business is done online in China.
All right, thank you for the opportunity to share some of my thoughts. Tmall obviously is quite a familiar name for Chinese right now. For most of the foreigners, perhaps it's not as familiar. So it is, put it that way, it's more like a Chinese versions, American versions, Amazon in China, except it's much bigger in the way that, I'll give you some statistics, just from Tmall Alibaba platform. Last year, 2019, they have moved over 700 billion euros of a GMV, okay? And just in one day, which has happened just maybe a couple of weeks ago, November 11th, this is like, tomorrow that the American has a Black Friday, or it's going to start Black Friday, but this is equivalent to Chinese Black Friday. In one single day, they move 46 billion euros of merchandise. And you're talking about almost like 7% of the sales in single day for the whole Alibaba platform. And you talk about the platform had the active user per quarter, roughly about 880 million people. So you're talking about the 800-pound gorillas in China is huge, no doubt. And this is certainly has become a major platform for many, many Chinese and also some overseas Chinese, etc., to buy things in China. So in essence, is a typical Chinese will spend quite a number of times and every day sometimes to buy things from Tmall. So it's a big platform.
So how do you make a difference? You've got this Swiss firm, you've got the world thinking, how do I get onto Tmall? Läderach is now there. How do you make a difference? When it's that big, how do you make a difference?
I know. First of all, I think that quite a number of people think that, gee, this is a huge market. If I get on Tmall, then just the number I just quoted to you will be stunning. But in reality is that there are hundreds and thousands of merchants and brands in all dimensions, including chocolate. Yeah. So just imagine you go to a shopping mall, there are like 800 stores there. And how do you find the right one, right? So it is not that because the big shopping mall there, then your brand will stand out unless you are quite well known. And my understanding is that this is a great chocolate from Switzerland. And certainly I'm sure lots of Chinese will love it. The only problem is that most of Chinese, including myself, not familiar with this brand, let alone testing it. Right. So the challenge is like, how do you break through this kind of crowd and let people know?
Yeah, exactly. So tell us a little bit of insights, give it a little bit of insights between consumer behavior and shopping, the difference in mentality between China and say Switzerland, the West.
You're asking a question is just like, think about it. So 1.4 billion people there, and let me give you some statistic. In Switzerland, you have, I just Google it, you almost have 9 million people there, right? 8 million plus.
Right. No.
And the place I stay in Shanghai, we have 24 million people here. And Shanghai has 16 districts. If I take the Switzerland's population, it will be ranked number 9.
Number 9.
In Shanghai.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So when you talk about the difference between the West and East, it's really hard to say. So usually that I would like to break down the Chinese consumer. It is a huge country, and obviously you have different generations, and different generations have gone through different stages in their life and different kind of background. If you know Chinese culture and Chinese history, The young people right now, they have nowhere close to understand their grandparents and their experiences. So you do see that there are generation gaps, and it's not simply saying that the age difference, the way they shop, the way they look at the world, the value system different. So I think chocolate probably is not as strange to the young people in China. So let's just talk about the chocolate alone. So I think that most of Chinese young people, they know about chocolate, but because the chocolate is such a huge category, and most of people probably only understand the chocolate from the supermarkets, like Mars bar or like the Snicker bar or Kit Kat, some kind of American brands there. And yeah, occasionally you go to the airport, you do see the more of the elite chocolate. So I would say that most of Chinese consumers are not aware of the variety of chocolates, and they are not aware who is the big name and who is not. And so when you talk about the shopping behavior, I think they are very similar to the most of the world is they shop online, obviously, and using the mobile phones. They get a lot of information from the friends, from all these different social medias. And if you genetically talk about their shopping behavior, like they will certainly try new things, and they certainly welcome now that the authentic and the real nice quality products. And they are not shy from saying buying strange things from online, even though it might be pricey. I'll give you one example. One of my students who are serving for luxury brands. You're talking about, for example, the Swiss watch, or maybe the LV bags or something like that. She said that now you see the rich Chinese, especially the even younger Chinese, they don't mind just go online, buy expensive things without even touching it, or even go to the store to feel it. So that is quite different from the traditional thought. We had to go to the real store to experience the products. And I think that, for Chinese consumer, if I want to say the young generation, different from the Western world, is that they may be even more venturesome than the Western counterparts, and they would try something unique and new. I think that's a good thing, a good news for the Läderach.
Great, thanks. I'm going to jump in right there. Lawrence, thank you for your question. A question comes from Lawrence. He's one of our MBA students based in Zurich right now. Could you tell us a bit more about your target demographics for China? How do you plan to do marketing for that group, as much as you can publicly share? Danny,
I guess this question is to me, right?
Yeah.
Thanks for the question. And first, we do not really have a specific demographic. And we do, but the demographic, because the audience for the chocolate is really large. And we wouldn't really limit ourselves to a certain demographic. And so far, I would say that the majority of the people who love our chocolate is women. And the women tend to like chocolate better than men, at least in China, or at least they say it loud. And so initially that we're focusing our marketing effort on women. And also because we're only doing it on the social media, online, and not with retail boutique. And the women tend to spend more time on the social media than men. So
okay.
This is where we're focusing our effort at the moment.
And David, when you hear this sort of thing, is this is this a strange phenomena for you coming from headquarters? I'm looking at the cultural differences here a little bit.
You mean specifically with a lot of women buying our chocolate, or more with the sheer size of the market?
Well, mainly the specific of the gender purchasing, yeah.
Of course, to have such a big proportion of women buying our chocolate, that's quite a lot. We also, globally speaking, have more women buying our chocolate. But I think, as Danny said, and this is an answer no marketeer wants to hear, but I think our target group really is very big. I mean, of course, you could specify and say it's probably women between 35 and 45, But overall, I just know that most people like our chocolate once they've tried it. But I think the key question is more as to, who will be the one bringing the chocolate into the household. And I think there also the women have more power than the men. So it doesn't really come to me as a surprise. Although I think it's also a matter of how do you market it. And I think there we can still learn. We have to analyze again in 1 year's time when we're a bit more established in the market to see how exact the proportions will look like.
Yep.
And maybe if I may add a little bit to that. And speaking of the demographic, I wouldn't really say demographic, but the first group of people we have reached out to, the first group of customers who come and bought our chocolate are those who have bought our chocolate in Switzerland and loved our chocolate, but they couldn't buy it back once they were coming back to China. So when they first heard that we are now available in China, they were super, super excited. And they not only bought our chocolate, and they also passionately shared our chocolate with others on social media. So this is something that has been very encouraging.
Great. So you've been operating on Tmall for a little over a month. I'm not going to ask you all the specifics, but how's it going? How's the journey going so far? What has been your major learnings? We know, again, for Läderach as a company, this is absolutely new business. We've never done this before, and so we're really pioneering something different for the company. Tell us a little bit about your experience and where you are right now, Danny.
Okay. So yes, and operating an online store and operating the retail boutique as Läderach usually do is quite different, but in some way they're also the same. And because they're both selling, so they basically follow the same pattern. You get the customer in, you convince them to buy your product, and you keep them loyal. So that pattern is the same. And what's different is how do you do that in each of the steps? Mm-hmm. That's where the biggest difference is. Take the first step, the traffic acquiring. With boutique, it is all about location. If you have a good location, you have good traffic. Even if you do nothing, you get traffic. Not really nothing, you still need to do the general branding. You need to have a nice storefront to get people in. But overall, the traffic is there no matter what. With online store, on the other hand, you get nearly zero traffic. You get nearly zero traffic if you do nothing. Mm-hmm. And even if you do something, and you still have a big challenge getting traffic. So that has been the major challenge for the China team to get the traffic to our online store every day. And the traffic is not cheap in China. It's getting more and more expensive because everyone's trying to get traffic. And the second biggest difference is in the second step, which is sales conversion. The boutique, and you know why customer comes in, you know why they buy your product, why they don't buy and leave your store, because you have a face-to-face interaction with them. And with online store, you do not have this opportunity. You do not know why they come, you do not know why they leave without buying anything. You can make a very well calculated guess based on all the data that's available on the online store. But in the end of the day, you just don't know 100% sure. Mm-hmm. And so all you can do to win the customer is through words, pictures, and video. Nowadays, not so much about words because nowadays nobody's really reading words anymore. Mm-hmm. And so it's all about the pictures and the video. And you only have a very small window of opportunity to get the customer's attention, roughly around 10 seconds. If you cannot get them interested in your web page or your product or whatever you're offering in the first 10 seconds, they will be gone. Yeah. So throughout this whole journey, we've been focusing on how to optimize our operation on those steps so that we can have a proper store setup.
Thank you. I just was thinking, Professor Chiang, you mentioned before, and when you were speaking about, people get to know this by chocolate in airports. David, why didn't, or have you thought about putting boutiques or mini boutiques in a couple of the major airports where there's absolutely, amazing traffic walking by the booths every day, and knowing that the spots in Pudong Airport and Beijing Airport are probably more premium than your Fifth Avenue opening from the cost and the rent, etc. But why didn't you go that route? That would have seemed to be I'm intentionally being provocative. That would have seemed to be the most natural route, because that's what you guys are good at.
No, it's a very valid question, Robert, and no one will ever know which strategy proved to be more effectively.
Yeah.
But I think it has a lot to do with what I said a bit of the family structure and how we're also established as a business. So since we're not listed at the stock, we're not a company that's about to open, 50 stores a year or so. So we really have the capacity also from a production side, from a quality side, to do maybe 10 to 15 stores a year. And as we're operating in different countries globally at the moment, so we're really busy in the US, Canada, UK, also Germany, Austria at the moment, we don't have the capacity to just open 5 stores in China just yet. However, I have to mention we're really not just wanting to focus only on e-commerce. So we're planning to also open up retail spaces in China. We know that it's gonna take some time, but we've already started the preparation for that. And we really see the e-commerce as just a tool to sort of also feel the market, to touch the waters, to really find out what might work well. But then, especially also because Danny raised these questions, it's so difficult to ask yourself, how do you stay relevant? How do you get the online traffic? We believe that it really is, on the one hand, through all of these global citizens that travel to New York, to Zurich, to Dubai, to wherever, and they see our store and they want to also purchase us in China. And secondly, to really create that offline experience, which can also grow in traffic online. We've seen that with a good example of a small influencer that came to Switzerland. They just made a 10-second video of our fresh chocolate, how it's presented in the stores, the slabs, how it's broken. They put it online, and I think within 2 days they actually had 500,000 views on it, which for a Swiss person doing digital marketing is amazing and unthinkable. Yeah. And this just shows, if you have a good also offline experience, I'm sure you can start a mini trend, something that can go viral. And this is also, for me, an effective way to gain in traffic.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you for being, I put you kind of on the spot there, but thanks for your openness. I just want to remind the audience, you can turn on your video. We'd like to invite you to join in the conversation. If you've got questions, raise your hand. I see we have, from who? We have a question. Could you explain a bit about the timing of going to China? Why not earlier? Why not later? Why today? Why? What? Maybe you could explain that a little bit, David or Danny.
Sure. Maybe I have to do it because Danny wasn't there for the decision, but we're happy he's on board now. It's probably, again, related to the explanation I gave before, that we just have to be very selective. We wanted to have a firm foundation in Switzerland, and then in Germany, which is just also from the language, and Austria, something that usually markets you would expand to as a Swiss company. So this was our foundation. But then actually already for quite a while, we've been doing some business with China. That was mainly on the B2B side. So with hotels and businesses in Hong Kong and Shanghai. So for us, it was never a question whether we would go or not. It was really more of the timing. Unfortunately, we had a bad experience with the first B2B partner that then eventually started to sell our chocolate on the black market, so to say, B2C. So we had to stop that. We had 1 year of pause. We tried a different one with a joint venture, then with a franchising. So in the beginning, we were quite hesitant to find the right model. And looking backwards, I think it was worth it, even though we maybe lost, so to say, 1 or 2 years. But we're very happy with the setup now, and it proves to be successful. And so we're eager to grow there. But this is a bit why we weren't there 10 years ago. Yeah.
Great. And also, again, so much has to do with the strategy of your firm, your company, family-owned firm, about investment into resources and growth. And you want good, stable, long-term growth, and not the quick flash in the pan into a market and maybe back out. And because you get your fingers burned a little bit, you're careful. Jeongwen, before we go to another question, from someone in the audience, I'd like to ask you 2 things. One, what about influencers, especially in the Chinese market, the use, the pros and cons? And second, what about partnering? So firms like Läderach, you've heard this 1,000 times. To know who to partner with is seemingly one of the most difficult things of all.
Yes. Well, I think really I admire that Läderach is trying to reach Chinese market, but I personally don't necessarily agree that go to Tmall is the best strategy for 2 reasons. First, this is a small brand, okay? It's a very unique niche. It's not big scale like Mars bar or sneaker bar or any kind of those commercialized on the supermarket. It is more like experience good. People taste it or people see the real thing and they say, wow, this is really nice. So when you think about you go to Tmall, you're talking about suddenly exposed to 1.4 billion people that could God knows where, and they had no chance to even know what it is. And then you only look at picture and you want to buy something from it. I don't think this is going to be very effective, provided they even know you, And if you look at this brand, it's from people who have tasted, who have maybe traveled to Switzerland or maybe from somewhere else. So they really know the product and they will enjoy it. And certainly they are the ones perhaps will say, wow, wonderful to have Tmall. So I think that this brand needs to start it from ground zero. I'm not saying that Tmall is completely gone, but I think there's more effective way could be from these social media platforms or KOL, with the influencers, and or the people who already experience your product, key opinion customer, KOC's idea. And I've been teaching digital marketing, and I think that for unique niche products, good quality, you don't need to go to mass market. You need to go to really people who appreciate a good product. And this, it's just maybe 2% of Chinese consumer, it will be overwhelming you. So I don't think you need to be ambitious, just go to Tmall. That's a personal view. And I think that, for influencers in China is really huge too. And you just need to find the good partners. We are not talking about the B2B partner, and B2B partner is different story. But I think if you want to go to consumer goods, consumer market, your partner will be the ones truly love your products, and they are more than happy to share the quality of the goods and quality of the brand with their customers, and then try to engage them to have them do all their bits of influencing. But I'm not saying go to right now, you had lots of this live streaming, broadcasting, selling format. In China right now, you have, like 2 people who can amass hundreds and thousands of customers, and they can just talk about the product in few minutes, and they can generate more than 10-15% your annual sales. We are not talking about that kind of platform. I'm thinking about more from the traditional KOL that's probably in other social medias, or from those, for example, I asked my research assistant to dig around, and she said that, she saw these products in the Little Red Book, because Xiaohongshu. This is some of those KOL platforms. So I think there'll be more effective way to try to start to broadcasting your brand from those kind of platforms, because you do not have huge stocks, or you do not have the supplies domestically met. And just think about how much you can sell if you become a big brand in Tmall. And I asked my researchers then look at your Tmall sales. So far, of course, you only operate maybe more than a month, a little bit. But most of the people who bought it, I'm sure they're the ones who already experienced your products. So, like I said, influencer marketing is definitely important, but we're not talking about in the Tmall platform. We're talking about more other different means.
Actually, before launching our Tmall flagship store, we had a mini program, a WeChat store for 2 months, from August to October. That was mainly because it took time to get the Tmall store up and running. And during those 2 months, we've also had sales, but not nearly as much as what we have achieved on Tmall. And the reason we have it on Tmall was the same reason we had on the WeChat store, is because we already had quite a client base here in China who know our brand, who really want to buy our chocolate. This I was first found that out also on the Little Red Book. Somehow, and we have become sort of a very famous brand. It's sort of a chocolate brand that you must buy if you travel to Switzerland. And that was before we were doing anything on Little Red Book. I think David didn't even know this social media channel back then. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so for us to have an online store here in China was mainly, first and foremost, a fulfillment center.
Sure.
To make our chocolate available to those people who know us, who really want to buy our chocolate. And from there on, those people will bring us additional traffic by sharing our chocolate with others on social media. That's the growing pattern we have been experiencing. Of course, we are not unreasonably ambitious at this point to try to become a very big brand on Tmall. No, we're not, because we also do not have that money.
Sure. Well, again, everyone's going to have a different view on this. It's a big market. There are a lot of different platforms. This was the platform you've chosen. That doesn't mean it can't and won't change over time. And this isn't meant to be Jeongwen Chiang has all the answers or you have all the answers. The idea is that we have an open dialogue, right? So I appreciate the freshness from Professor to say, well, maybe Tmall wasn't the best idea. That's the idea, to strengthen each other. We call sharpening the sword, right? To make us all stronger. I want to go to Rose Lee. Rose, you asked a question. Would you like to ask a question to us? You want to join in? Turn off your mic and join in the call. Hi, Rose.
Hi, everyone. Hi, dear professor. Nice to see you here, and hello, David. Actually, I'm a big fan of this chocolate. I know it's chocolate for a few years, and then I'm the person who don't eat any sweet. But this brand really opened my heaven. So, but when we talk about this brand, actually, I'm more considered about the brand, except for long development as a brand, because for me, my personal experience working in the Swiss watch with distribution. We are the retailer for Swiss high-end watch in China. So for me, their Tmall mood as a loyalty customer, I'm kind of disappointed because for me, or I'm thinking about this brand, it's like the Peter Philip of the watch. It's like that. So I would be more happy if they have their own offline store, to let customer really taste it, because David talked about the production before. It's not a mass production products. You have a limited production. So go to Tmall, it's the time, and you have the sale, it's the time. Just like if you have loyalty customer, I buy this chocolate to every of my friends. So it's no doubt for the sales, but why this movement? I mean, why is this move not offline boutique for customer taste experience? And also it's a branding. It's also about the branding. This chocolate brand in China. If you come into the Chinese heart, if you're offline store and come to Chinese heart, customer heart more early, you are positioning yourself more early. This is a big benefit for this brand. But now you go to offline, you can have tons of sales, No doubt, no doubt about the sales, but I just a little bit worried about the branding.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is for David.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you for the input. But you know, it's interesting. We're all armchair strategists. You know what that means? It means as long as I'm sitting in my chair, it's easy for me to talk about what the answer is. The reality is, for Läderach had to put money on the table. So I, you know, whether it's the right money or the wrong money or too little or too late or too much, people that put the money on the table are the best strategists, right? So we'll see if this is the right thing, if this is the right way. We're in the learning phase. You've been a month online. So again, let's come back to the branding, and let's stick with the branding a little bit. So one of the phrases that comes up is about the authenticity of the brand. I'll be a little bit provocative. What does that mean, the authenticity of the brand? David?
Yeah, maybe first back on the comments from Rosie and also from Dr. Chiang. Thanks a lot. Really, honestly, I like also the provocation to some extent, or the different opinions. I mean, that's what this is for. And just to clarify, so we're really also down to establish a store. We firmly believe in it. Right now, we thought it would go faster. It's really difficult for our expansion team to travel to China, but we have it on our list, and I hope we're going to have it sooner than later. Danny hopes so too. So thanks for these comments. That really reassures us also that we need an offline presence. Coming back on the authenticity, I think the most authentic way a business, can position itself is really with the owners being a family, working with it on a daily basis. I think this is really proof that you want to spend your time with the business, that you want to improve it, that you want to bring it forward. Regarding the production, I would definitely have to mention my brother, Elias. He's actually the reigning world chocolate master, so to say the world champion of chocolate. So he really knows what he talks about when he's about to, innovate, make a new praline, do a new showpiece. And he's heading our production, our innovation team. And I think this is really proof of, what authenticity mean and should mean. And the second point probably to mention is our corporate culture. So we have established this term of being a chocolate family, which is a bit ironic because we are a chocolate family, but we regard the chocolate family as really our whole supply chain. So meaning from our 1,462 cocoa farmers we have around the world, all the way through the supply chain, including our employees, to the end consumer. And this is really dear to our heart, and why we believe, we can work with this term and be an authentic brand.
Okay, thanks. Danny, what's his name? Francisco asked a couple good questions. One is, it has to do with moving from Switzerland into a new market, in this case, China. And the question is for every one of you, did you have to adapt the branding elements, brand essence, positioning, etc., to make it appealing to the local Chinese market in this case?
Well, if we have to, we would, but luckily with Läderach, we don't have to. Okay. Because Läderach has already have all the elements that is needed.
Okay.
Those are brand elements that all Chinese like. But we're happy that we don't have to really adapt anything to the China market. We just follow our global strategy. And so far, everything works. And I just want to add a little bit about why we really want to start online first versus offline first. Because it takes time to get an offline space, because we only want to present at the top malls, top location. And it's really not difficult, not easy to get it in China, especially in the tier 1 city. So I was being asked when I first get to know the family that, is that okay if we come to China 2 years later?
Yeah.
My answer was, yes, we can, but there will be a lot more catch-up for us to do because all of our competitors are already here. So since in China that the people are so used to buy things online, like Professor Chang has said, Now, especially the younger generation, they even buy the luxury designer bags online without even touching it. So here, people's buying behavior has changed. And by having an online store here in China, we would first just like to fulfill the basic needs of those who really want our chocolate. From there on, we will look at the branding and expansion and everything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's talk about quality a little bit. Quality is rapidly changing in China. Any aspects about, is there a China product versus a European product?
Not really. This is something that, as I mentioned, the quality of our products is really the core strength, because this is something that we feel blessed with. We really make a good chocolate. And everyone who have tasted has said so. Sure. So here we have the advantage that I personally or the whole China team don't have to worry about the quality, that our chocolate is not as nice as our competitors. We know our chocolate is better. We just need to find a way to get more and more people to try our chocolate, and our chocolate will convince them by itself.
Yeah. Got some other. Yeah, so the one question came through for the Chinese market. Do you use Swiss production or have local Chinese production? David made that clear. Everything stays based in Switzerland, and that's the challenge because of the freshness. The freshness, the commitment to the quality, and the commitment to the made in Switzerland. We've seen many other firms go into this space, also other chocolate firms where it's made wherever, and they lose some of the exclusivity, so they get the mass market, but they don't remain an exclusive brand because it's made like Heineken in any country in the world. It's no longer a Dutch beer, as an example. And I think what they've said all along is they're going to keep this approach, right? And work around that because that is the USP. Is that right, David?
Yes, that's absolutely right. I think he just, Wei Hu also just had a follow-up question that for freshness, it would be in theory fresher, of course, if it's produced locally. Fair enough. I cannot argue against that one. That's lies in the nature of it. But it's not just freshness in the sense of what is the shortest shelf life, but also in the sense of what does quality really mean. And I can tell you, and I think most probably you would have to visit our factory like Robert did, what steps are included in a whole production facility, what know-how really is needed for that. And the easiest proof for that is really to see how many people copy us, especially our fresh chocolate, since we started with that 15 years ago. Lindt does it basically all of the big chocolate brands. But I think I can confidentially say they have not reached that level, which is really a sense of quality that is not being copied so easily. This is our reason for now. We firmly believe it's the best strategy right now, but we never know what's going to happen in 10 years or 20 years. You always have to adapt. So I hope that answers it.
Thank you. I'm going to come to the topic of pricing. It's been asked by also someone in the chat. It's a hot topic. Pricing is one of the most critical aspects to all of this. Jeongwen, when brands like Läderach, that is a luxury premium chocolate brand in Switzerland, when they're trying to present themselves as a luxury brand in China, how does this work? How does it work there?
That's the whole semester course on pricing, you know.
Sure.
Well, I think first of all, I admire that you know, David mentioned about this authenticity, this uniqueness. This is you know, the truly high end, the so-called the Rolls Royce of the chocolate. And if you truly believe your quality and reputation is on the roof, I don't think you need to be shy about charging the right price for that kind of image, provided that if Chinese people believe you are truly that good. So I don't quite agreed that if you don't come in right now, you'll be late. We are not talking about something people buy and never buy it again. This is talk about chocolate. This is the things you eat and you disappear, right? And it's a goods you can buy again and again and again. So if you want to truly establish your name, you try to maintain the consistency of this premium. And you know that Chinese, they are not familiar with your brand. You only talk about a small pocket of people who experiences it. Me personally, I travel all over the place. Sorry, David, I never tried your chocolate either. So in a sense that, if you truly a well-known brand in Switzerland, and if you bring to China, you're one of the strangers. So the key is try to slowly build up your reputation. Maybe like I mentioned, I go through these grapevines or social media, maybe have a couple of very, the prominent offline in, say, Bond in Shanghai, or something really uniquely showing you, this authenticity, or you are the Switzerland, made in Switzerland. So I don't think you need to try to be saying, I want to just charge a price. They are quite pleasant to most of common people. Put it this way, most of the Chinese don't eat chocolate, period, okay? Most of people maybe occasionally eat chocolate. And so let's think about 2% of the Chinese population will eat chocolate. Out of this 2% of the 2%, they will eat the premium chocolate. And you take the math, it's huge number already. You probably will outstrip the production.
Yeah.
And 2% of 2% multiplied together annually, and if you can satisfy them, and guess what? They want to show they have a good taste. They want to show that they know what's true good chocolate. So charge them arms and legs, for crying out loud. Why do you be shy about it? And that's my view, that the marketing 101 is segmentation from the high to low. If you truly have a mess, or truly like this luxury switch watches, they don't charge you nickel and dimes. So go for it, David.
Thank you. I like the provocative nature of the discussion. So we see people writing premium price for this brand won't be a problem. We're running out of time, and I am also cognizant it's late in Shanghai and we have other meetings. Danny, famous, any last words from your side?
This is we really had this debate internally in the beginning.
Yeah.
And first is about who we target, and also second, how we price ourselves in China. And because, I think what the Rose just said, that yes, we can charge a premium to the customer here. Yes, sure. But as a family, and David and his family decided not to, because we're trying to be honest, and we're trying to make our chocolate available in China at nearly the same price as they are in Switzerland, so that the more people can have the chance to buy it. And in the end of the day, eating chocolate makes you happy. This is what the family has believed in, and that's what we have been operating in that direction. But still, from the marketing perspective, it makes total sense. And when our chocolate is so much cheaper than our competitors, because they came to China with doubling or even tripling their price, and we are coming here with adding a minimum cost increase. And the consumer, especially for those who don't know us, they see the difference. If they haven't tried our chocolate, they might think that our chocolate is not as good as others. I got that. That's what has bothered me in the very beginning. And we had a debate internally, and we decided to go the other way around and to keep the price real and let our chocolate convince the customer by itself. So, not sure if that's right. Maybe it's completely wrong. Maybe we should really focus on the very top of the market.
There is no right or wrong until the market proves it right or wrong. Mm-hmm. David, any final comments from your side?
Yeah, no, thanks so much. I think all I can mention right now is really that we've just started on a bigger scale since 2 to 3 years to really expand internationally, also North America, Asia. So we've identified a certain pricing strategy, but the future will tell exactly. Could be very well that in 1 year's time we say, hey, we need to change something there and there. So I'm happy for all of the inputs, for all of the comments. It was really a great webinar. I'd be happy also to stay in touch. I don't know if it's possible to somehow then also show the contact details, and please reach out to us, and be happy to discuss at a later stage and see how it's going. Thanks,
Thank you.
Robert.
Thank you. Jeongwen, last comments from you.
All right, best luck. And I think this is a great venture for you. And like you say, it's an experiment. I personally have seen quite a number of experiments, and personally, I have seen quite a number of failure too. So I hope this is a good one. And if you need anything that, we can offline chat about it, but the really best wishes to your venture here.
Thank you. So everyone, dear participants and dear panelists, thank you very much for joining the virtual discussion today. A huge thanks to Professor Jeongwen Chiang for your insights and your encouragements and your provocative thoughts. To David Läderach and to Danny, thank you very much for sharing insights also about strategy and hearing some of the tough questions. I think it's about also sharpening, right, going forward. Finally, we wish all of you, especially Läderach, lots of luck and success in your market entry into China. We talked about this before. We'd love to watch the come back in a year and have a review about how things have gone in the last year. So we'll continue that discussion, right? Okay. Thanks so much, everyone. Wish you all a great afternoon.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.